Alright guys, so today we're talking about conflicts under Washington. Yesterday we talked about Washington's presidency and the traditions that he talked about, that he set forth for our country to follow. So today we're going to talk about the conflicts that happened under his presidency and how he was able to get through those. But before we do that, let's start off with a little review. The first question I have for you is, how many terms did Washington serve under president? Give you a couple of seconds to answer that. All right, if you said 2 terms, you are correct. Washington served 2 terms, total of 8 years. Remember, he was getting old in age, but also he doesn't want to hold on to that power because he wants to get away from that image of a tyrant king. So he only served 2 terms. The next question is going to be, what was his advice to the future leaders of our country? So what advice is he giving to us? It's kind of a few things that he mentioned, so I'll give you more time to answer this one. But what is the advice in his farewell address? Okay, if you said anything along the lines that he said no alliances with other countries, that's correct. And he also does not like political parties. Remember, he doesn't want alliances with other countries because we can't afford to go to war. So we don't want to get tied into a war that we really can't afford to get into. And he doesn't like political parties because our country would be divided if we had political parties. Kind of like today, like you guys saw in the commercials. You have Mitt Romney who's saying things about Barack Obama, and Barack Obama who's saying things about Mitt Romney. They're just separating. Our country's separated. So it's kind of like a civil war during election times, and Washington didn't like that. All right, so hopefully you guys got those right because those are definitely on the quiz coming up this week. So our first deal is the lesson objective. I want you guys to know that President Washington has conflicts, but he's able to manage them, and we're going to talk about how he managed those today. So that's the big idea for today, or the lesson objective. My big idea is I want you guys to know that Washington, now with an army, that shouldn't be not, but it should be now with an army, is able to put down domestic disputes. And Washington wants the U.S. to stay away from making alliances with other countries. And he's going to continue to show that during his presidency. So our first slide has to do with the Whiskey Rebellion. Remember, the United States is in debt. We have no money from the Revolutionary War. We're continuously trying to find ways to make money. And one of the biggest things that we come up with is by Alexander Hamilton, our Secretary of Treasury. He's all about the money. Alexander Hamilton decides that we're going to increase taxes on whiskey. Right now, whiskey is a huge profit. A lot of people love whiskey. People got mad when we increased taxes on on sugar because rum went up. Whiskey's a huge deal. It brings in a lot of money. Our country likes to drink it. And so right now we're increasing taxes on whiskey. The problem with that is that the whiskey will cost more for farmers to make. And therefore, the farmers are going to be upset. They're going to start attacking the tax collectors. What that's going to do is going to create a rebellion. Just like another rebellion we talked about, Shays' Rebellion, when the farmers were getting taxed, these farmers are going to have another one. There's a big difference though. Washington is able to send 15,000 troops, which is going to stop this rebellion, basically on the dime. The reason why, George Washington, as the executive branch, has the main job to ensure domestic tranquility. What that means is he's going to make peace at home. How he does that? We have police officers that do that today. We have an army that does that. We have ways of protecting our people in the United States. Something happens to your house, you call 911. It's simple as that. His job as the executive branch is to enforce the laws. So he does that with an army, the police officers, however he sees fit. So with the Whiskey Rebellion, he brings in the army to stop this whole rebellion on the dime. In Shays' Rebellion, the reason why Shay was so successful is because we did not have an army under the Articles of Confederation. So already you see how this government's improving. Some of the other issues that we're dealing with is that we have problems with our Native Americans. The Native Americans do not believe that the U.S. had authority over them. They believe that they were here first. Well, they were. Problem is that we don't respect that. And so we're starting to take their land. The colonists are moving into the Indian Territory. Obviously the Indians do not like this, and so there's going to be a huge conflict over that. In 1791, George Washington is going to send Commander St. Clair, and he's going to battle Little Turtle, chief of the Miami people, and they're going to fight over territory. Unfortunately for the U.S., they lose. They lose this first battle, and it's kind of an embarrassment, and so we have to regroup ourselves. In 1794, Washington is going to win a battle of Fallen Timbers against the Shawnee tribe, a different tribe. But what's significant about this is that we get land out of this. The result is the Greenville Treaty, and the Indians are going to give up their land of Ohio. So basically, this is how we get the state of Ohio, is through the Greenville Treaty. This is very important because now we're going to have an extra state to add into our country. So those are two domestic issues that we're talking about. Domestic means at home, and so we talked about the farmers in the Whiskey Rebellion and now the Native Americans. The next couple issues that we're going to be talking about has to do with foreign affairs, the problems with Europe. Europe at this point right now, there's a war happening. This war is between Britain and France. And one of the biggest things that's happening is Britain and France want the United States to be on their side. We're in the middle. We're trading with both of them. The problem is that they don't like that. We're trading weapons to both sides, and they kind of want that to stop. So President Washington is sticking to his idea of staying neutral, not picking a side. The problem is that Britain is practicing impressment, where they're taking our American merchants and forcing them to fight in the British Army. That's not very fair. We can't stay neutral with that, and now we're losing money because our merchants are being, forced to fight in a war somewhere. So we come up with the idea that Thomas Jefferson is pushing of trying to get France on, or stay on France's side. He brings up a couple reasons. First off, they're not the ones messing with our merchants. And number two, they helped us out in the Revolutionary War. Thomas Jefferson kind of makes sense, but again, Washington wants to remain neutral. He knows that we can't go to war. He knows that we can't afford it, so he wants to stay away from it. Now, the result of this is that we're going to send in our Chief Justice, John Jay, and we're going to create a treaty called Jay's Treaty. And this is with Britain. The way that we're going to do this is that Jay's Treaty, we're going to have Britain leave American soil. They're going to pay for all the damages that they've done to the American ships and all the damages lost from trade. And in response, we are going to trade with Britain alone. All right. And so what that does is now Britain gets most of our merchandise, and France kind of loses out on that. That's kind of a big deal because now France is not favoring us. They're upset about the fact that we had Jay's Treaty, and it's going to cause conflict down the line. Another issue that we have is with Spain. If you remember, Spain did not allow us to use the Mississippi River, and they're kind of scared now because not only do we have a treaty with Britain, but we kind of have an alliance with Britain. We're kind of working together, and so Britain is they're not against us anymore, and Spain's kind of paranoid about that because now Spain is seeing us with friends with Britain, and they're thinking, wow, what if these two groups attack us? So Spain, being paranoid that Britain and the U.S. may team up against them, decide that they're going to come up with a treaty for us, and it's going to help us out a lot. This treaty is going to be called Pinckney's Treaty, and Pinckney's Treaty is going to allow the U.S. to use that Mississippi River and the New Orleans Point. If you look on the map, it's these 2 points right here. Here's the Mississippi River going down right here. And then here you have right here the New Orleans Point. That is significant because if you're a farmer in the middle of the United States, you want to use that Mississippi River. You want to travel down here and then use this port to trade your items. Because remember, over here you have the mountain range of the Appalachian Mountains, and you don't want to go past that point. So it's a big deal that we get that land from Spain. It's huge because now we're able to use the Mississippi River and now the New Orleans Point. And that's from Pinckney's Treaty.